Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Books for Breakfast morning show. It's a new day in Boston, and today we checked in to find out what some of our friends across the city are doing. As always, thank you for spending your morning with us.
Good morning, my name is Nakia and I am the Director of Youth Writing Program Innovation and Partnerships at 826 Boston.
Good morning everyone, my name is Asya and I'm a teaching artist for YLab.
Hi, my name is Kelani, I'm a part of YLab as well.
And this morning, we're actually in one of our community artist collaborator, Joe Wardwell's studio, and we're gonna spend our morning, what are we gonna do, ladies?
Write poetry.
Write poetry. We just wanted to let everyone know to enjoy your morning at 826 Boston's Books for Breakfast. Have a great morning.
Bye.
I'm meteorologist Dave Epstein. Whether it's rain or shine, it's always a great morning for Books for Boston with 826 Boston. What a great program with writing, tutoring, and more.
Good morning, this is Kristen Russo coming at you from Boston International Newcomers Academy with her amazing seniors. Buenos días. Bon dia. Bonjour.
Salam.
Good morning.
Hi, my name is James Sabatino. I'm from Roxy's Grilled Cheese here in Allston, and I start off my morning cooking bacon and frying chicken. I just wanted to send my support to all the students at 826 Boston.
Hi, this is Pat from the Urban Farming Institute, and I start my morning in my backyard. Here we go, kale, 2 types, collard greens. We've got parsley, we've got scallion, and oh great, I can get some pea pods. And here's my salad for tonight, and maybe some carrots over here. Hey, shout out to all the students at 826 Boston. Have a great breakfast. Bye-bye.
Hola, buenos días. Soy Sabrina de 826 Boston y este es Bigfoot. Y nosotros empezamos nuestra mañana bailando salsa. Quisiera mandarle todo mi apoyo a los autores estudiantiles de 826 Boston y esperemos que disfruten su tiempo aquí en Books for Breakfast. Adiós.
Thanks, morning team, and thank you all for joining us today at Books for Breakfast. My name is Jess, I use the pronouns she, her, and I'm Executive Director of 826 Boston. The land where the 826 Boston Center, partner schools, and offices are located in Greater Roxbury, and where I'm calling in from in Melrose, Massachusetts, are on the original homelands of the Massachusetts tribe. We honor and pay our respects to the ancestral bloodline of the Massachusetts tribe and to their descendants who are still inhabiting the land on which we work, serve, and live today. We put together this Books for Breakfast morning show for you, and it is quite a lineup. You're going to hear from best-selling author, comedian, and actress Phoebe Robinson, and White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, 2 women who are known for standing in their power and making their voices heard. And of course, it wouldn't be an 826 Boston event if you also didn't hear from some of the talented young authors in our community. We're excited to bring all of this talent your way this morning, and our aim today is to inspire you to help us raise funds to support 826 Boston's youth writing and publishing programs, which are provided free of charge to students and their families. You'll have plenty of opportunities to support our work this morning. Here's how. You can click on the link in the chat, or you can go to 826boston.org/breakfast to make a gift by credit card. You can make a gift through your donor-advised fund, or you can open your camera on your phone and hold it up to the screen to capture the QR code. A link will pop up at the top of your phone screen and will take you to the donation page. Our goal is to raise $225,000 in support of students who are on their own paths of self-discovery and empowerment. Please feel free to make your gift now or at any time during the program or even following the event. Thank you in advance for your support. I'd like to take a few minutes now to share where we are as an organization and some updates about where we're headed. 826 Boston is a nonprofit writing, tutoring, and publishing organization where students in grades K through 12 and beyond can share their stories, amplify their voices, and develop as leaders in school and in life. Our programs are offered in partner Boston Public Schools, at our center located in Roxbury's Eggleston Square, and now in digital spaces as well. Providing the high-quality youth writing programs that 826 Boston is known for has been a challenge during the pandemic, but our talented team has pivoted effectively to serve more than 3,000 students, leverage the support of more than 500 volunteers, and provide 21,000 hours of virtual tutoring last year alone. This fall, we've been so excited to welcome students back into our physical spaces again. In the after-school program, we've customized hybrid in-person digital programming to meet the individual needs of students and their families. In all 6 of our thriving writers' rooms in partner Boston schools, we've been collaborating with teachers to provide writing support across grades and subjects, and to offer clubs that are driven by student choice, like K-pop and slam poetry. The student editorial board for this year's Young Authors Book Project recently titled their book, I Was Meant for This, Mayoral Speeches by Boston's Young Leaders. In addition to the print publication, we'll be unveiling a companion website that will feature students reading their speeches, as well as a profile of Mayor-elect Michelle Wu, who took the time out from the campaign trail to answer our students' questions. Moving forward, we have our new strategic plan in place to focus our priorities and goals as an organization. As a team and board, we have recommitted ourselves to our diversity, equity, and inclusion action plans and our racial equity work that is deeply essential to centering students and community members who carry marginalized identities and to creating equitable, safe, and inclusive spaces. As we look to the future, one of the meaningful new initiatives coming up will be to launch our new alumni network. And you'll get some insight today into why this project feels so central to our mission. You'll hear from Zariah, a founding member of 826 Boston's Youth Literary Advisory Board and an alumna of our writers' room at the Burke High School. Zariah stayed connected with us when her family moved out of state during the pandemic. She continued to participate in virtual programming and stayed in touch with our team through her first year of college. She is a writer, leader, and advocate, and exemplifies why we want to build a talent pipeline, as she'll be providing consultation to our staff as we envision the new alumni network. When students graduate from high school, we want there to be paths back to 826 Boston, so that our community of support is still part of our lives, and so our programs can benefit from their valuable perspective and insight as volunteers, as paid staff, and eventually as leaders of our organization and of our city one day. Later on, you'll hear the burning questions of some of our current students, Nazir, Abdusalam, Justice, and Aaliyah, during 826 Boston's very own Psaki segment. But first, you'll be introduced to another alumna, Haley, who worked with us when she was a 5th grader at the Rafael Hernandez School in Roxbury, and was published in the 826 Boston book, I'm a Flame You Can't Put Out. I still remember those days tutoring on the project at the Hernandez as a newer staff member myself and reading the imaginative poems written by Haley and her classmates. Also unforgettable was the film directed by Matt Watson that we made about the project all those years ago. It was both moving and adorable. Fast forward 8 years to 2021, and Haley was again published with 826 Boston, this time as a senior in high school. The book was created in partnership with Margarita Muniz Academy and the Hernandez, bridging these 2 dual-language Spanish-English school communities through students' reflections on their visions for the future of Boston. Thanks again for being here with us today, everyone. I'll be circling back with you at the end for some final words. Now, let's cue Matt Watson's latest film. Enjoy.
My name is Haley Mercado, and I'm going to the University of Massachusetts, Boston. For elementary school, I went to the Rafael Hernandez, and then for high school, I went to the Margarita Muniz Academy. We worked with tutors from 826 Boston to make poems about what we'd like to be when I grow up. We made a book and we made a video to showcase it.
I'm gonna be like David Ortiz and hit home runs. Teammates pulling on my beard in the dugout.
I will inspire other people to believe in themselves and to follow their dreams too.
I wanted to be a singer when I grew up. That's what I wanted to be.
I would dance like a paradise bird in a blue dress with a long feathery hat.
Okay. I can't believe I made that. Oh my god. Well, it was really cool to be published in a book. I believe it was the first book I was published in ever. And I couldn't believe that they actually made a book about what we wrote. I'm like, a fifth grader released a book. Senior year, we were 826 Boston. We made this book called I Closed My Eyes and Imagined Visions for a Better Boston. So the overall theme of the book was what can we do to help in Boston? I wrote about distance learning and what resources we can use during the pandemic at home. I interviewed a woman named Rhiannon Gutierrez from Boston Public School District. She helped me a lot on resources we are using, what can you use, and what can be helpful for those who need them. The pandemic made everything so much harder. Everything was on Zoom. Ms. Laura, she's the 12th grade English teacher. When she said we're gonna work with Asians Boston, I'm like, again? It was a match made in heaven, but that we were supposed to work together again. We work with tutors from 826 Boston. They support you through the way. They make sure you get your work done. They help you with revision and editing. Yeah, I pulled it off. I don't know how, but I did. I feel like this was the last achievement that I had that I got before graduating my senior year of high school. And yeah, I'm proud of myself for actually doing something. Again, and it being in a book. My picture's in a book again. And I can't believe I wrote all that. Oh yeah, this is me.
It was unique for me this year to see the growth, for me as a teacher, to see the growth that students had made from being published as fifth graders at Hernandez to working with me now. Like Haley, other kids were able to take their situation, which was we are stuck with COVID inside on Zoom, and take inspiration from that for something positive to propose and to stick with and to learn from. Zoom is helpful for us to bring the people in, but really what we needed was not more technology or different types of apps, but we needed to bring the people back into students' lives. And that, I think, was what made 826 during this year of COVID teaching so unique, because they forged relationships over the course of this project where the tutors know the students really well and the students really get to know the tutors. It just, I think, allowed them to feel more connected to other people and realize even in the process that people were listening to them and considering their ideas and helping them to express them in the best way possible.
Hey everyone, I hope you woke up on the right side of the bed this morning. I hope you got your coffee and everyone's energy is up. My name is Zariah and I'm a founding member of 826 Boston's Youth Literary Advisory Board, or as we like to call it, YLAB, because that's a mouthful. I'm a freshman in college in Pennsylvania studying to become a lawyer. I'm excited to bring you the next segment of the Books for Breakfast morning show, an author talk with Phoebe Robinson. Miss Robinson is a multi-talented stand-up comedian, New York Times bestselling author, and actress. She is best known as a co-creator and co-star of the hit podcast turned TV show Two Dope Queens. Her third book, Please Don't Sit on My Bed in Your Outside Clothes, came out in September 2021 under her imprint Tiny Reparations Books. Let's welcome Phoebe Robinson.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. Your hair looks amazing. So cute. So cute.
So, since we're at AX Boston's Book for Breakfast, I'd like to start out with asking you this. If you could describe yourself as a book, what would your genre be? How many pages would you have? And what types of ratings would you give yourself?
Oh, that's a fun one. No one's asked me that. I would say my genre would be creative nonfiction. I think 250 words because we're all busy. I'm sorry, 250 pages. It should be more than 250 words, but 250 pages because we're all busy and I want people to be able to move on to something else. And light, fun, but also willing to go deep and get vulnerable.
I love that for you.
Who
who would you say are your comedic or writing inspirations?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm a big fan of Mindy Kaling. I think she's so funny. I love reading her writing. I love the Mindy Project. It's one of my favorite shows. I really love Issa Rae. I think Roxane Gay is a phenomenal writer. Tina Fey, of course. I think any woman who works in comedy, like you've been inspired by Tina Fey. I think maybe on the performance side, like I really love like a Maya Rudolph just because she commits and she goes big and she's so funny. And could do anything. And so I really like to try to do that with my own stuff and just be fearless. Amy Poehler. Yeah, those are some of the, Wanda Sykes, Sarah Silverman, those are some of the people. But it's all like heavily, female inspo.
Okay, so now we're diving into more, I don't want to say serious questions, but it's more about like your personal life and your experiences. So, how was your experience attending Pratt Institute, seeing as it is a predominantly white institution, or as we know it, a PWI? Personally, I found that attending a PWI would be isolating. So I'd just like to know what your thoughts on it are.
I think like I will say, like in my major, I was a writing major at Pratt and I was the only Black female writer in my graduating class. And so I think like I certainly noticed that, but I think because I made friends outside of my writing major, and one of my closest friends, Nori Davis, we met in an improv team when we were both like 18, and he's a Black guy. And so like we would hang out a lot and go to like shows and stuff. So I think it was able to sort of balance knowing that like, yeah, I'm kind of in the minority here, but not allowing it to make me feel isolated. Like there was enough sort of like culture and enough sort of diversity within the circles that I ran in that it didn't feel too tough. But I think it prepared me a lot, certainly to work in comedy, which is very white and very male dominated. Podcasting the same, and publishing is predominantly white. And so I think what I learned, the tools I took from my time at Pratt was just sort of like, even if you're the only one in the room, don't allow that to make you shrink yourself. Come in and just be joyful and be present and, outwork the people around you because you have what it takes, and people might doubt you, but then once they see the work that you can do, they're going to be like, oh, bleep, this woman's amazing. And so I really always try to keep that in the back of my mind. But like, there are times where I'm like, oh, I wonder what it would have been like if I went to HBCU. But I think I learned a lot from my time at Pratt that was really positive.
I'm trying to find some positivity in my experiences.
What does it feel like for you? Is it just sort of like, is it isolating?
I mean, it can be, like you said, it's kind of like you can't let yourself be isolated, so I have to go out and seek those people. And I feel like for the longest time, I was
Mhm.
used to certain environments not being PWIs. Like when I was in 826 Boston, all of Y Lab was people of color. So like I was
Yeah.
just used to that dynamic, and then I switched to somewhere that wasn't. So it's kind of like I was like, "Ew, what is this?"
It's hard, but I feel like you have such great energy about you and you're a curious person. And again, your hair is major, even if you're not feeling it today. So yeah, I would definitely say try and find like groups like outside of like the circles you have to travel in for school that can make you feel, less alone and feel like you have people who totally get like what your experience is like. That could really help a lot.
Thank you. I love your energy too.
Oh, thanks.
So this next question is also kind of relating to like education. So what do you think education institutions like 826 Boston, colleges like Pratt Institute, for example, or formal public schools are lacking when it comes to support for BIPOC communities? Now, BIPOC, I do want to clarify, is an umbrella term for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So, what should these institutions keep in mind when working with BIPOC students?
I think the biggest thing that a lot of these institutions could do is sort of let BIPOC people take the lead, because I think a lot of times it's sort of like, oh, if it's like Asian American Heritage Month or Pacific Islander Month, or it's, Black History Month, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll do like a couple of like events or activities so it feels like they're being inclusive. Um, but I think what I don't want to speak for all BIPOC people, but I think what we're looking for is not like, oh, it's February 1st, let's like do something about Martin Luther King Jr. What we want is to be like, we're all a part of American history, which means that we're a part of this community year round. And so I think allowing to have BIPOC students in sort of leadership positions with, whether it's like an activity board or different sort of like groups within the school, I think it encourages other people, other BIPOC people to feel like, oh, there's a place for me. Because I know for me personally, there have been moments where I'm like, oh, there's no Black person in the room. They don't want us here. And so then it makes you shy away from going after that opportunity because you're like, well, I don't want to be the only one here. And so I think they really need to be conscientious of the fact that like people like you and me and countless others have so much to give, and we're so creative and so smart and so willing to be a part of a community, that they should support us starting our own communities within this and like having other people gravitate towards us, and not allowing to be like, we'll just pick a select few, but allow us to really take the reins and sort of architecting what you want your college experience to be like, because there's such formative years and you should really be in charge of how you want that to look.
As a successful, multifaceted Black woman, you are breaking so many boundaries and setting an example for other Black girls like myself to look up to. What was your recipe for success to motivate little Black girls who may one day come across you and your work?
Oh, that's such a nice question. I mean, I started doing stand up in 2008, and I never thought that that was going to be sort of my life plan. Like, I thought I was just going to be a screenwriter and producer and be behind the scenes. And so I seen like a few comedy specials, and I always was so obsessed with Wanda Sykes. I just think she's just the funniest stand up comic. And so, I would watch a lot of that. I would watch a lot of BET Comic View to sort of like find those like inspirations. But certainly I started in New York. I started in a scene where there wasn't a lot of Black women. And so that made me kind of go, oh, I don't want that to ever happen again. So I feel like that's always been a through line in anything that I'm doing, whether it's like Two Dope Queens with Jessica, where we wanted it to be predominantly people of color, lots of female voices. My imprint's the same thing. My production company is the same. My writer's room on my TV show for Freeform is the same. So I really always want, it's really hard when you have to like go it alone or you're separated from each other. And so it's really good to be surrounded by people who have shared experiences. And it not only makes me work harder, it makes me feel this great sense of community and makes me feel like I have people who have my back. And so I think I really have tried to do that throughout my career. So I hope that inspires other people who are coming up in comedy or publishing or some other sort of career path to just sort of be like, oh yeah, like I don't have to do this alone, even though it's being presented to me like I have to be the exceptional one. It's like seek out those people who you think are brilliant but aren't getting the opportunities, and you team up together, and that way you can really sort of build something amazing together. So I think that would be sort of my advice. But it definitely feels nice to have you say such nice things about how I'm inspiring other people. I think that's really cool. And I hope to keep inspiring and do a good job and making sure that the representation is, you know, full of quality and fun and a lot of heart.
I'm just loving your answers. I'm like, oh, I have like this list for my nieces. Like, I have this list of like Black women and like Black figures and icons to look up to as she grows up. And I kind of added you to the list already. And it's like media and stuff. Like, I have the Proud family on it. I have Living Single. Well, when she's old enough to watch this stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
I'm like, no, Ellie would love this when she's older.
Oh my gosh. How old is Ellie? I have a niece who's 7. How old is Ellie?
She's 2. So she got a few years before I went. So this question is more about hair. I know we keep bringing up our hair. Mm-hmm. So historically, Black women have always had a strong bond with their hair. In the past, I've had a negative relationship with mine. Over time, I have come to have a loving relationship. How did you form a positive relationship with your hair?
It's ongoing. I am, buckle up, 37. And, you know, it's still a journey.
I'm freaking out. Like, even my mentor, Nakia, like, I'll look at them and I'm like, there's no way. Because in my mind, you're like 24.
Okay, yes, and that should be in everyone's mind that I'm 24. But yeah, it's been like really tough because you're battling against so much, like everything that society tells us is quote unquote wrong with our hair. Like trying to find the right hair products for yourself can be really hard. And, you know, especially if you live in like certain places, or if you're like, you know, surrounded by mostly white people, it's like they're not necessarily going to understand what your hair journey is. And what I really had to sort of do, like the first step that in my hair journey process was like I stopped perming my hair at 18. And I'm not against that, but for me, like I felt like I was only straightening my hair because I was like, that's how I can be like an appropriate Black person in public. And so to me, that felt like sort of the ritual of perming my hair was sort of like trying to tame myself and instead of being celebratory of my hair. And so when I stopped that and I started going natural and I could do like braids and stuff and have like my fro, that allowed me to like have fun with my hair. And even now, like this is like a super fun wig because I wanted to be like a sassy woman today, but like, you know, like I'll do like my little 2-strand twist. I'll do like little Afro puffs or cornrows. And like, I really made it a point to be like, I know this sounds cheesy, but it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the mall in cornrows and teach myself to be comfortable, even though people are going to be staring at me, and be like, I'm going to be proud of how my hair looks in the mall. Or I'm going to go to a restaurant with like my little baby fro, and I'm just going to eat in public and people are going to look. But I'm not going to make me feel like I shouldn't belong here. And that really helped a lot because then after a while, I kind of stop noticing people looking at me. And I just started feeling this sense of pride of like, yes, I love my hair. I love showing my hair. And I think that really helps a lot.
Yeah, I kind of had the same experience growing up. It was kind of like if my hair wasn't straightened or brushed out, or like, I hate hot combs. I'm so traumatized. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They hurt. Like, ooh. I don't know. It was always
Yeah,
like
and it's
having.
like your hair. Wait, say that again. You cut out. Sorry.
Sorry. I don't know. It was always kind of like, oh, you have to look presentable, and I'm like, well, why is straight hair presentable?
Mhm. Exactly. And so that's why I'm always like, I always like tell Black girls, I'm like, if you're going in for a job interview, wear your hair natural. Like, just go for it. And like, some people are not going to be accepting of it, but then the other people who are, like, that's where you want to work because they're going to understand you.
So the next question is kind of like connecting 826 and some of your work. So when 826 Boston's Y Lab, I'm going to say Y Lab because it's a lot to say, was developing a name for our podcast, we came up with Excuse My Culture. It meant that we were taking up space, defining our own identities, and letting our listeners know that our stories matter. What message did you want to send with your production company, Tiny Reparations?
I mean, it's honestly the same thing, like when I grew up, there were so many Black shows in the year. There was Moesha, Living Single, Martin, and Living Color. And then when I was like in my late teens, early 20s, like all of that kind of went away. And I like didn't really see myself reflected in a lot of TV shows. And so with Tiny Reparations, I really just wanted to be a place where women, people of color, people from the queer community can tell their own stories, and do it in a celebratory way, because I think a lot of times people who like aren't from our communities and they want to write our stories, they try to like make it like really traumatic or really sad instead of celebrating all the amazing things about our lives. And so that's what I really try to do with the production company, is like, this is a place where, yes, you could talk about serious things, but we also want there to be joy and want the people of color to tell their own stories rather than it being like some white guy writing a story about us. And it's been really exciting to work with people from all different backgrounds and to hear their life stories and to be a part of their process with their ideas and stuff. And so, yeah, I really hope that is sort of the legacy of this production company.
Well, thank you so much for interviewing with us, coming to 826 Boston's Books for Breakfast. Just appreciate you coming here and letting a college student question you about your life.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun, and you're so delightful, and you already have the goods. You really do. You honestly can do whatever you want. You like are so ahead of the game, and like you're awesome. So just keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Phoebe. Now we'll be going on to our next part of our event. Next up on the Books for Breakfast morning show, a student press briefing with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. As you may know, Jen Psaki leads the first all-female presidential communications team. She previously served as White House Communications Director in Barack Obama's administration, as spokesperson at the State Department of former Secretary of State John Kerry, and as a political contributor for CNN. I'll send you over there now to the press briefing in progress.
Hi, it's Jen Psaki. I'm the White House Press Secretary, and I'm ready to take your questions.
Thank you. I wake up at 6 a.m. What time do you wake up?
What a great question. And first of all, I'm very impressed that you get up at 6 a.m. You must be ready to take on the world getting up that early. I can't wait to see what you do in the future. But I wake up in the 5 a.m. range. Sometimes it's 5:15, sometimes it's 5:30, sometimes 5:45 after I hit the snooze button. But I try to wake up early so I can see what's happening in the world, read some news, check my email, and get ready to face the day and spend some time with my kids too. But well, I'd love to ask you some questions. What's your name? What's your favorite book? And do you have any questions for me? Any more questions?
Thanks. My name is Zariah. I'm 8 years old. My favorite book is Lunch Lady. My question was, why does the president travel all over the United States?
What a great question. Maybe you're going to be a journalist in the future. We'll see you in the White House briefing room. We'll see. So the president travels around the country because he is the president for everyone in the country, all 50 states, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you voted for him or not. And to him, it's really important to have that engagement with people. Tell them what he's fighting for, why he's trying to make their lives better, whether it's kids your age or whether it's adults or even your grandparents. And that's something the president really enjoys, is getting out there into communities, really talking to people and telling them what he's trying to do to make their lives better.
Thank you. What do you work on at the White House, and how do you use writing?
Thank you for your question, Nazir. First of all, writing is central to everything I do here at the White House. I'm the White House press secretary, which means I'm responsible for communicating with the public about the president's agenda. And that means I need to be able to tell them what he's thinking about big issues people are facing, whether it's how we're fighting the pandemic or what he's doing to make sure people have jobs, or even how he's making sure schools are open and kids are getting all the resources they need, like access to books and clean drinking water and everything that's important. So that's my job every day. But a key part of my job is being able to write and effectively communicate complicated policies. So while you didn't ask me for advice to be a reporter one day, if you're going to be one, or whatever you decide you want to be one day, I will tell you that being a good writer, a clear writer, a strong writer, and practicing that is really so central to working in a government, working in a job like the White House press secretary in the future. And I think we're ready for the next question. So who's the next questioner? And can you also tell me a little bit something about yourself?
Thank you. My name is Absalam from Binka. I'm 18 years old. I like to help each other. Okay, my question is, what is the government doing to make college costless for students?
Thank you, Abdisalam, for your question. And I will tell you, first, the president is married to a community college professor. And so his view is there's almost nothing more important than making college more affordable and accessible to more people in this country, because that's the way that people are going to be able to advance and feel in all sorts of industries they're interested in. That's how we're going to make our country more competitive. And it just has huge advantages for families across the country. So a couple of the steps he's taking are, one, he wants to make he has proposed increasing Pell Grants, increasing the amount of money that students who are trying to go to college can get access to. He also really wants to make community college more affordable and accessible and even free for people across the country. That's something we're still working to achieve. And he knows that's a way that a lot of people who may not have access to college can go to college. But really, he wants to make sure kids know maybe they're the first in their family who might be thinking about going to college. Maybe they don't even think it's possible for them, that it is possible. And he wants to keep pushing in government, working with Congress to make sure it's accessible, affordable, and going to college can be a reality for people across the country.
Thank you. In your experience in government, what is the best way to apologize for an honest mistake? Thank you.
Abdisalam, what a great and thoughtful question. And what I can tell you from the time I've spent in my career is that we all mess up sometimes. I mess up sometimes, the president messes up, the vice president messes up, the first lady messes up. And the most important thing you can do is to learn from your mistakes, make different choices next time, better choices next time sometimes. And the president always tells us that if you mess up, fess up. And what he means by that is acknowledge your mistake, explain how you're going to fix it or what you're going to do better the next time. And you can do that in writing, as you said, or sometimes you do it verbally. But what I've learned is not to be too hard on myself, but to learn from times I make mistakes and hopefully do it better the next time. Well, thank you for your question. And I think we're ready for some more questions. Who has the next one?
Hi there, my name is Justice, and I'm an author. As for my first question, it is, how has the importance of your position been changed since the pandemic?
Well, Justice, first, I love that you started your question by saying I'm an author. And that's taken a lot of people, myself included, time to own who you are and who you want to be. So I love that you started that way, and I can't wait to see and read what you write as an author. But I would say the way that my job has changed since the pandemic started, I think in part is it is really emphasized the importance of accurate information, truthful information being out there for the public. Because for a long period of time, the public has now for over a year and a half has really been relying on information from the government so they can know what they should be doing to protect themselves, protect their loved ones, protect friends and neighbors. And we need to make sure that we are building the trust in the public that they know they can rely on the information coming from us. And that also means that sometimes we have to say things that aren't always happy, aren't always pleasant, but it is honest, it is direct, and people know that they can trust the information they're receiving from us. So I think the pandemic has really emphasized the need for that and the need for accurate information coming from the federal government and from people that people across the country are really relying on for that.
That's nice to hear. My next question is, how have you been personally changed since taking this position?
Okay, how have I been personally changed by this job? Another very thoughtful question. One of the things I've really reflected on when I've been in this job is the importance of, as a professional communicator, really deeply understanding what you're talking about. Sometimes people think that the job that I'm playing is to be a news reader, or I'm reading off a teleprompter, or simply reading off a piece of paper. And really that's not the job. But in order to effectively do my job, what I knew coming in a little bit, but being in the job for months has really emphasized this for me, is that I really need to understand the substance and the policy and the depth and the reasoning behind what we're doing as a government, why we're doing it, why the president's doing it. And that requires me, frankly, doing a ton of homework. I don't know if there's another word for it, when I'm not doing the press briefing every day. A lot of my work happens when I'm not doing the press briefing. It's really digging in and understanding and educating myself so I can be a better communicator and more effective as I communicate to the public. And that's something I've really learned from the president, because the president does not like acronyms, and he does not like jargon that is meant to be too fancy or elite. And he is really somebody who instills in us the need to explain things to people and speak to people in an accessible way, not dumb it down, but speak in human English and the way people experience and live things. And that is something that I strive to do every day, but it has really settled into me as I've been in this job, the importance of that. So thank you again, Justice, for your questions. I have time for one more set of questions. So I'll look forward to hearing from the next person, and tell me a little bit of something about yourself as well.
Thank you. My name is Aaliyah. I am 8. I'm in 3rd grade. And something about me is I love to draw. My first question is, what's your favorite thing to do outside of your job?
Aaliyah, thank you for your question. I have a daughter who's 6. She's younger than you, so she would think you were very, very cool. But she also loves to draw and loves art very much. I am not a good artist, but I also enjoy drawing when I have time. But my favorite thing to do is probably to read, and not read always the newspaper. That's part of my job. But I love reading books, and I love reading fiction books. And I think if I were to spend my perfect day, I would be surrounded by a lot of fiction books and a good cup of coffee. And a lot of you are not old enough to drink coffee, but that's my experience. And I've always enjoyed the journey of a book because I feel like it shows you a different world. It exposes you to things you never thought about before. And so I really love to read fiction books when I have free time. And I think I have time for one more question, Aaliyah, from you.
Thank you. I just want to say my favorite snack is a honey bun. And I was really curious, what's your favorite snack?
Aaliyah, honey buns are delicious, and I would not turn down a honey bun. But I think my favorite treat, I'm going to say, is ice cream. I would eat ice cream for every meal if that was allowed. I love mint chocolate chip. I love cookies and cream. There's really no ice cream I don't like. So that would be my favorite snack. I don't know if I can call it a snack. It's a treat, but I would eat it for every meal. And thank you for your question too. Great questions, Aaliyah, from you as well. Well, with that, I want to thank you, and I want to turn it back to Jessica Drench, the Executive Director of 826 Boston.
Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today, Jen. And thank you all for tuning in for Books for Breakfast. If you haven't yet donated, you can make your gift by following the link in the chat or following the link below. And quick news flash, the first 200 people who give at $200 or more will receive a signed copy of Phoebe Robinson's new book, Please Don't Sit on My Bed, in your outside clothes. Looks like we're getting close to our $225,000 goal, so please consider making a generous contribution today so that 826 Boston can launch our first ever alumni network and publish more books written by young authors like the talented students and alum who you heard from today. We are so grateful to everyone who has made today's event possible. Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, Putnam Investments, Brookline Bank, Morgan Stanley, Amundi US, Proskauer, Wellesley Books, Goodwin Procter, BookBub, Homelight, the Boston Foundation, and Eastern Bank. Our media sponsor is the Boston Globe, and this event was produced by AE Events. I also want to thank the event committee led by board member Kevin Whalen and board president Jillian Coley for their support of 826 Boston and their leadership on this event. Thank you to the 826 Boston community members who kicked off our program with warm morning greetings. And gratitude goes out to our board of directors, volunteer corps, partners, and to our incredible team of staff, service members, fellows, and interns whose commitment, care, and creativity have made our programs a place where students want to learn and grow. And once again, thank you for having Books for Breakfast with us. We're grateful for all that you do to make our work possible. Have a wonderful and story-worthy day.